Well, they're grinding you down in Jackson County, that's for darn sure. 50-plus thousand of you have appealed your tax assessments. And, of course, several hundred of you have ended up with the exact same, that's right, yes, the exact same valuation, $356,270. And the person who has been leading the way in the Metro on the investigative reporting side of this is our next guest, Angie Rincono, KCTV5, who joins us on KCMO. There was an update to the reporting over the weekend. Jackson County actually admitting they had some major errors here in their data. Is that right, Angie?
Yes, they finally admitted it on Friday. We've been pushing on this. We originally reported it in like mid-August. Hey, you've got more than 500 homes valued at $356,270. The county was quiet, didn't want to talk about it. We were actually told in person by the county that they didn't think they had a mistake and it was just one person's opinion. So we've had weeks of reporting where we found empty lots valued at $356,270, $1 million home, $356,270. And what they all have in common is there's a December sale. So last week, the county finally admitted it on Friday, and it was prompted because we keep in touch with all of these homeowners. And there was one where the county admitted it. They were like, oh, yeah, we've got a data error, cleaned it up for her, but they didn't for someone else. So we reached out, and then Friday they admit it. But what I find fascinating is they say addressing rumors of a higher number of properties affected. So they call it a rumor. Reports of more than 500 affected properties are unsubstantiated. So we do our report, but we're going back and forth with the county. Well, what do you think the number is? Because our data expert is very firm. It's more than 500 homes. Eventually, 6 hours later, they admit it, 550 homes.
Wow.
550 homes valued at $356,270.
550 homes. Okay, so that's the number. And as you reported, there were $1 million homes that got that valuation. There were empty lots that got that valuation. But the common theme seemed to be that all these lots that got the same exact valuation or properties were all sold in December of last year. So how does that tie into whatever their data error was? Is it really just about some kind of screw up with sales from last December?
It appears they put everything in a column, and then they valued that whole column at $356,270. So no matter what you paid, if you got put in that column, you got that same value of $356,270. So today, a representative from Tyler Technologies, and that's the third-party vendor Jackson County hired, will be speaking before the legislative body at 3 o'clock. So I'm sure there will be more questions and then people asking more specifics about how an error like this happened, but more importantly, how it wasn't caught. We've been speaking with a mass appraisal expert who's like, my gosh, you should have enough time in your process that you go back and you spot check things. And this 550 homes, that number is important, how many people were affected by it, because this is the number one residential value in the county if you have a piece of property with house on it.
Okay, so now
this is a big thing not to spot check.
Yeah. Now, the county claimed that everybody got a physical inspection, or no? Because if they did, there's no way you could possibly have this happen.
Exactly, and I think that's part of the reason why we haven't heard from the county. Maybe they couldn't figure out what they did, right? We need to give them the benefit of the doubt. But I think the question for a lot of homeowners is, how did you stand here, look at my property and say $356,270? So the most recent response we've gotten to that with physical inspections is they went out, did the inspections, but then values were assessed later.
That's
But I think that is still, a statement that a lot of homeowners are questioning. Like, aren't you supposed to be standing there looking at my property, coming up with some different things? Because how does anybody look at a half acre that's empty and say, oh, $356,270, that makes sense? So that's the whole point of why you're supposed to be having physical inspections, right? So that the data makes sense. That was the whole point behind it.
Here's what's interesting, too. Angie Rincono, KCTV5. What's interesting to me is the fact that the county has now, hired a PR firm to kind of protect them on this issue?
Yes.
With taxpayer dollars.
They have a PR firm. Yes, taxpayer dollars, and it's for the assessment department. And so that's who we are coordinating with whenever we have questions. Because, of course, we would like to sit down and have a conversation with Gail McCann-Beatty, the director of the assessment department, to really better understand this error, how it happened, what happened, is it indicative of something else? Because sometimes when you get a clearer explanation, you know what I'm saying, it puts your fears to rest. We aren't getting that. And she has not been at recent meetings where you can ask her any questions. You're getting Troy Schulte with the county. He's the county administrator. And this is not his, department, but he's the one that's left answering the questions. But we've got a PR firm that we're now dealing with.
A PR firm, okay. And the county executive and the assessment director, the two people that should be answering the most questions, have not answered a single question at all since you started this investigation.
No.
Okay. And today, I think you noted it, Tyler Technologies, the company that was hired by the county to do these assessments, they're going to be facing the Jackson County legislature today. Do we think that's going to actually result in anything, or what should we hope the outcome is of that meeting today?
Hopefully clearer information, but I think the clearest information, Pete, is going to come from the state auditor, because he has the powers to force people with subpoenas to, sit down, talk to him, to get evidence. Homeowners have been turning in different whistleblower complaints to him. So he has a really good perspective of what's going on, and he will be taking a closer look, whether they like it or not. And I think that's important to get to the bottom of what happened. But we are going to hear from Tyler Technologies today. So we will be in that meeting because we feel like it's important.
What time is that meeting?
3:00.
3:00 today. Jackson County Legislature will be talking with the company that the county paid what? I think they paid them $17 million to do this assessment.
Correct, to do a competent assessment.
And yeah, the first part of that obviously has not been met thus far. And there's 54,000 appeals out there across the county. Is that the final number we've got?
Yes, 54,000, and it's like 239, which is just absolutely an incredible amount of appeals, just when you look historically in Jackson County, but also when you look at our other surrounding counties in the metro. You have maybe 1% that are appealing, and in Jackson County, you just have this huge percentage of people who are saying, hey, I think you've got my value completely wrong. And in some cases, you're not arguing over like $5,000, $10,000. For these homeowners with 356, 270, they were off by hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I think that's important to note too.
And the last thing I will note, and I want you to follow up on, is the person that you spoke to in your reporting over the weekend, who has 40 years of experience doing this stuff, Marlene Jeffers. She says that Jackson County's assessment is the most troubling she's ever seen in the country in her 40 years.
Yes.
Wow.
And what she's concerned about with what happened with 356, 270 and some other things that she has been tapped into and has learned. She's like, you're just going to find a mistake everywhere. She's really concerned about the quality of data overall. Not that anyone ever intended to do this poor of a job, but just because it was such a rushed process that they couldn't go back and they couldn't spot check things. And I think that's her whole point. If you aren't spot checking the number one residential value, properties that have a house on it, my gosh, what else could possibly be out there? This was a big error. If you just isolate the homes at 356, 270, they went up 168%. So it's a real quick, once you realize it's the big number, you're like, well, what did this number do? Did it go up 30% on average? Like, what's the average? I mean, right there, that's why we really started digging into it. We're like, that doesn't make sense. And when we went in the field, it was very obvious these were errors.
Unbelievable. Angie Rincono doing great work here in town on this issue, KCTV5. We'll be watching tonight to see what happens today with the Jackson County Legislature. Thank you, Angie.
Thanks, Pete.